Welcome to the Maria Heller Show, the Internet's original podcast. Since the year 2000, always ahead of the curve, always on your side. A true warrior for truth and justice, Maria and her guests leave nothing out, and no one is off limits. There is only one truth, the rest is lies. Sit back, enjoy the education with a true daughter of Mother Earth. Sharp New York wit, spiritual knowing, and a very dry sense of humor, Maria will dissect the news and lies to make it all palatable. Education is power. Maria delivers rapid-fire truth like no one else can. Here she is, the mouth that roars, the legendary Meria Heller.
Good morning, world. Maria here, alive and kicking. Welcome to Awaken with Meria and Monnica. And every day you wake up, there's always some bad news on the doorstep, as the Beatles would say. But this is the unfortunate reality we find ourselves living in. Good morning, Monica.
Good morning, and it's really important not to pay attention to that news because I was reading, actually I saw a video of Will Smith, and he just said that he watched the news one day and realized that he was getting addicted to it, like it pulled him in. And when it does that, they do something to make you feel it, especially Fox News. They really brainwash and, they change your state of mind. But he said, I realized I wanted to have peace and order and harmony and serenity. He goes, and I stopped watching it altogether. But there's other people who have to watch the news because that's what they report on, right, Maria?
Right. I'm too tied into it, that's for sure. I was like, wow, I better start thinking about taking some time off.
Yeah.
But you know what? I went outside because I've had, problems sleeping this whole month. It's like just interrupted sleep. And I know there's a lot of frequencies hitting the earth. I know the sun is going crazy. But when I was out there at 6 o'clock this morning, they just began spraying the skies. And by 8 o'clock, the skies were all dimpled with the new made-up clouds, which they can also use for mind control and disturbing our frequency.
Yes, absolutely. And this is why it's important that every morning when we wake up, we connect our heart to the source, spirit, all that is, higher power, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't care. The great I am. We connect our heart to that and disconnect from collective consciousness or anything that is unlike the light or love. And we actually set the tone for the day. And it's the first thing I ever do before anything else. And it makes a big difference. So I would definitely want to suggest that to your listeners.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I do it so much. It takes hours almost. Some days it takes hours to get through it. It's like, oh, God, anchor me down, anchor me down. But, I had let the audience know that we were going to talk about past lives today.
Past lives and reincarnation. Both or just past lives?
Well, either one, wherever it goes. And I want my audience to know we never prepare for this show. We just literally go off the cuff. But it was interesting.
No script, nothing.
Right. It was interesting because before I said it, I had asked listeners to send in questions, and I got one that her intuition must be pretty good because her question kind of fits in with the show.
Okay.
So I thought we'd start with this. Her name's Cindy. She's born April 27th, 1961. She says, I've been having health issues and working hard to rehab and heal my lungs using physio and a mixture of meditation and Qigong. Is there something I could do to bring about a miracle in my health, or is this a karmic thing that I must live through?
No, you don't have to live through anything. There's something called divine grace, and what we do, I was told a long time ago from extraterrestrial sources to reset our being to the default settings, and instead of focusing on what's wrong, focus on what's right and say everything in my being is in divine order. I also feel that she needs to really express herself a lot, do creative things, have more joy in her life, laugh more, and because laughter and joy is healing. And, the areas of pulmonary and bronchial and asthma and all those things have to do with the inability to release repressed emotions and repressed things that we need to say. One of the things I would say to her is to probably write down everything that's been bothering her, like forever. Just sit down and start writing and writing and writing until she gets it out. Because sometimes we don't have anyone to talk to, or we don't want to talk about certain things.
Right.
So I think that she needs to write, and that will help heal her. So my sense is that I don't believe that this is tied into a past life. because I don't see anything that she did to cause another person injury or pain. So I do feel that it's in this lifetime that she's going through this.
Well, that's interesting because, I took a look at her also, and I don't see any indication that this is from a past life. And sometimes when I'm reading for people, it is a past life, if it's a past life issue. And a lot of times, if I make them aware of what the issue was, it clears.
Yes, indeed, absolutely, because then you've looked at what caused it and how to heal it. And, this is why I like Louise Hay's books, Heal Your Body, because she deals with, present tense, what caused the ailment, how to fix it, and she gives you the end result. And her books that particular one it's alphabetized based on ailment or disease or illness. So when I looked up at asthma, it just said the inability to stand up to my father or fear of the father, which was really true. And once I dealt with that, I don't have asthma anymore.
Right. Well, that's interesting because when I look at Cindy's timeline, what I can see is that she does have father issues, and she's got still some broken heart issues over relationships that she's been in. And I think that's where a lot of this emotional problem is stemming from. So it's time to do.
A lot of people don't want to look at that because they don't want to go back through what is called suffering. But you don't have to suffer. You just write down the things, and if you're really pissed about it, write in red ink,
Right. Paint, finger paint. But the other thing is, when I see something like this, I always tell people to do some sort of releasing technique.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things I cover in my book is because the book is about raising our frequency. And in order to do that, we have to get rid of the low frequencies because we can't walk around with those low frequencies as they cause illness. So with her, it's a need for expression to get it out. Get it out. And then when you, excuse me, sorry about that. And then when you release an emotion or whatever's bothering you, before you send it out to the planet, don't send it out in the way it is because we can transform and raise the frequency of whatever it is that was within us. So we cannot create it, we cannot destroy energy, but we can convert it. So I would convert it and send it pure love and then release it.
All right.
So
well,
love to the planet.
Well, another suggestion I have, especially for people that live on the ocean or near the ocean, is to just write it out or speak it out over the moving water, because moving water will carry it away. Moving water is healing water.
What an incredible visual. I mean, the ocean's at the end of my street, so that I love that.
Right. Back in the days, that's what people used to do. Even the term scapegoat, a lot of people don't know where that term comes from. But back in the day, people would speak their problems and whatnot to a goat and then let the goat loose. And that's where the term scapegoat came. So this is another way of releasing your stuff, except I don't think most people have access to a goat. But even if you do it over running water out of your faucet, there's so many good releasing techniques, even if you get body work.
And even when you look at different sayings, it's like, where did that one come from? I was so angry I saw red. Well, that's the first chakra, and that's where that physicality is held. And when people get very angry, they do see red. That's the first chakra. Then you look at the third one, which is in the abdominal region, the solar plexus. People that don't have enough courage are called yellow-bellied, or envious, green with envy. That's the color of the heart. You want to pull that stuff out. How about having the blues? That's the area of expression. You get depressed if you're not expressing yourself. How about in the pink? Everything is rosy.
Right.
That's the color of universal love, So it's interesting. I wonder who actually came up with all those sayings, because that's how I memorized the chakra system.
Right. Well, there's also, the whole theory and technique of color healing. Healing with colors.
I definitely believe in that.
Right. Some days I'll show up at the gym in drab clothes and everybody knows I'm in a bad mood. But some days I'll go in there so colorful that I knock people's eyes out, and they'll say, wow, can't miss you today. And my answer is the same. I needed the color today.
You need the color, and that's how you should pick your wardrobe for the day. What color feels best for me? And you'll be wearing the right one that's actually going to heal, and it makes a bit, like I said before in another show, my closet is according to like the rainbow. I have all the reds with the reds, the oranges, the greens, the yellows. They're all like the rainbow, and I go in there and say, what color am I drawn to today that I really need? And I know exactly where to go. So, and then you build the outfit. You know how we women are.
Right, right. But there's there's a lot to be said about, healing, color and the way you feel.
But I want to say one thing. During the holidays, never burn red candles, because you'll find within about 30 minutes, arguments will start happening. People will start bickering. You don't like red candles. Green ones and white ones, other colors fine, but never red.
Well,
I tried it myself, and it did work. People started to fight.
well, okay, we covered that. A lot of people are, and especially when they call, you or me, a lot of people want to know about their past lives. But I always have to use my own intuition to whether or not they can handle hearing about their past lives. Because I keep telling people, if we're here again, it wasn't because we were Mother Teresa in a past life.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think sometimes people go overboard trying to find out their past lives to the point that they don't spend time on their present life.
Yes.
And you can't
That's
blame
true.
everything happening in this life on something that happened to you in the past.
That is so true, Maria. But if there's a trait, for instance, if a person can't wear turtlenecks because it just creeps them out, or they don't like small places, claustrophobia, at that point in time, they need to really look at past lives to find out what happened.
Right.
And what I do is I tie in a past life to this lifetime so that they can release those fears. Like I used to have a fear before of hot water.
Right.
I would only take lukewarm showers. I can't drink anything that's really hot. It burns my skin. And then when I ask, because you can access your past lives by asking them to come through in a dream state. And you can actually see, as an observer, you can say, I just want to observe this. I don't want to be a part of it. I don't want it to control me in any way. I don't want to feel anything. I just want to see it. And I saw myself being through, and people kept asking me to go to Hawaii, and I wouldn't go. And so I thought, okay, why is it I have this aversion? I'll go to the Caribbean, but never Hawaii. And my entire family used to go, but I just didn't. And had a dream that I was actually sacrificed as a 15-year-old into one of the volcanoes, and I also had a fear of heights, being on mountains. Freaked me out. Couldn't handle it. So I saw myself being thrown into a volcano and being sacrificed, and I thought, that's where it came from.
Yeah, that would do it. I would say that would do it. It's interesting you say Hawaii, because I had similar experience in Hawaii. My own sister was living there for 7 years. I never wanted to go. And then when I did go, I hated it. Okay. And I couldn't understand it. And my friends were like, who goes to Hawaii and hates it? And then I had to go back to Hawaii for work. And I decided to take a day off and go see Pearl Harbor. And what was revealed to me in that day in Pearl Harbor, I was crying like a baby. And then when I saw that I was actually one of the brothers on the USS Arizona, which is interesting since I live in Arizona
Live in
now.
Arizona, yeah.
And I watched me and my brother look at each other the second the bomb hit the ship. And it was like our whole lifetime just passed in a split second. Once I finally got away from Pearl Harbor that day, and there was so much more to that story, I was okay going to Hawaii again, but I called one of my good friends while I was still there, and I said, I want to get back to my life. And she realized that I was talking about the present. Yeah. But obviously that had affected me, because I had been back several times after that, and I loved it every single time, but I guess I needed that realization.
Yeah, you needed to make that connection. Did you ever have any fear of water? Or did you just love water? Because you're in Arizona, there's no real water there, right?
Well, not so much a fear of water, but heights in water. Like driving over a dam. It's like one of my worst nightmares.
There you go. See, it does carry, it's called imprinting or bleedover. And you and I have an interesting connection here, because I have my past life in World War II, but it was Nazi Germany. And in order for me to get over what happened, I actually flew. I went to Warsaw, and then I went to Auschwitz, because I knew I died there. I had been having those revelations since I was like 8 years old. And there's a lot more that happened, but I can tell you that once I went to Auschwitz, and I actually brought home some soil and some rocks right in the place where Josef Mengele used to, point the finger right or left. And this was at Birkenau, Auschwitz-Birkenau. And it was a very releasing experience, but it was one that I had to do. My dad passed away and told me to go there, and I did.
Huh.
So and he said, I also go to Berlin, and I went to Berlin. Because, I communicate with people who've crossed over all the time, and after my dad passed away, he guided me and told me exactly what to do. And my trip was to end at Stonehenge, which I went to. David Icke drove me there, in fact, and it was quite revealing what happened. Boy, there's really strong extraterrestrial communication right there. Mm-hmm. So anyway, from that past life in World War II, it made a lot of sense of my present lifetime.
Right.
And I won't go into the details, but I can tell you that my job this time around was to serve humanity, and that's all I've done my adult life. So, my personal life has suffered.
Right.
But now I'm looking. So any men out there listening that are available, I'm looking.
Personal life, what's that?
I know.
Well, that's interesting because, when my kids were little, I remember one day we were watching a documentary on the Holocaust. And I just sat there and just burst out crying uncontrollably. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't just like, crying during Schindler's List. I mean, I was really like off the walls crying. And sometimes this is also an indication of a past life. People get indications of past lives all the time, but they don't pay attention.
All the time.
The things you like, the things you don't like. You know what I mean? Right. You can learn just as much either way. Years ago when I was...
You took the words right out of my mouth, Marie. I was just going to say the exact same thing.
Oh, well,
if you hate something intensely or love something intensely, they were connected in a past life.
Absolutely. There's always clues.
And what's interesting to me is that, you and I have that connection to World War II, and Germany was in alliance with Japan because they were left off the Versailles Treaty, so they aligned together. And, I'm fascinated by history anyway, but there's a lot more that's been revealed since then.
Right.
It was kept under wraps by our FBI, Herbert Hoover. And
well, that's a whole long story. But, I remember when I was married and still living in New York, and believe me, my husband was not as aware as I am, but he decided to go down to Virginia for a 3-day weekend. And, we went to Arlington Cemetery, the usual places everybody goes. Yeah. And then we were out in a field not far from Arlington, and all of a sudden, he couldn't breathe. He literally couldn't breathe, and he had to sit down on the ground in front of one of the trees there. But he told me that while he sat there, he had a full-fledged vision of being bayoneted through the stomach as a blue coat against a tree in that spot. Oh. And then, of course, when we researched it, of course, that's where a lot of the war was as well. So he actually, his past life literally took his breath away when he touched the same soil.
Yeah, those symptoms do come back. And again, that has to do with bleeding over into this lifetime or imprinting. So I always tell people, look, aren't you curious? Don't you want to know? Because it explains a lot of times why people come here with certain ailments. Like people say, well, that's not fair. That person has disabilities and stuff. But we really don't know. What if they did something in their past life where they, they cut someone's leg off or they choked them or whatever. And now this lifetime, based on something called karma, they're paying a price for that. And that way their soul's going to evolve and move into love much faster. It's the fastest way to learn when we have certain, disabilities. So for me, it's not like I became cold and callous. It sounds like that, but it makes total sense.
Oh, absolutely. And sometimes it's not karma. Sometimes it's the challenges you wanted to experience before you came down here. I think about, right. I'm sure you read Shirley MacLaine's books, her spiritual books.
Yeah, I did.
But I remember her first one and one of the stories in it that I really never forgot. She was in India, and she was going down the Ganges, I guess, one of those long boats. And she noticed on the other boat that a child had fallen off the back of the boat, but none of the adults turned around to help the child in the water. And, of course, she, coming from her Western perspective, immediately said, why are you people just standing around? Why aren't you helping that child? That child's drowning. She didn't understand when they replied to her, that's his karma. We don't interfere in other people's karma.
Ooh, that's brutal.
Well, it's brutal, but in a way, you look at different belief systems. and how she thought she was right, but they also thought they were right.
I wonder what religion they were.
I don't know. I don't know. It was India, so it could have been anything.
Well, I'm closely connected to Taoism, but not Buddhism. I believe in working with energies.
Well,
and when I look at past lives for people, I don't know anything about them, but I'll say, you have a fear of this, and it's because of what happened back then. So I use it for therapy reasons for people to get over it, but I don't know. It doesn't feel right for me to let a child die because I believe in divine grace.
right. Well, but I'm just saying, you see how different cultures believe in different things.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
But when you but when you experience, for yourself, especially when you don't believe in any of this stuff, and all of a sudden you're having a full-fledged out-of-body past life memory, you have to start paying attention. But the good thing is, once people realize where it's coming from, like I said earlier, sometimes it just automatically leaves. It's like you lifted it off their etheric body and it's gone.
Yeah.
Or they can work towards getting rid of it.
I have a really good process that won't take long, just a couple minutes for people to do in order. Not only can you ask to dream about a past life, but you can also, it's so funny, I had a dream one time that I was an Italian opera singer. There was no electricity, and I was on stage singing, and I love to sing. But I saw myself as a male. I was very, very fat and gluttonous, really, but I had a great voice. And so the next morning, I just was going to happen to have a reading by a woman named Bobby. And this is probably back in, I think I was 37 years old, so it's probably back in the 80s. And she said, now, you know that you were an Italian opera singer in Italy, right? And I said, yeah, I just dreamt about that one last night. But there's another way to actually access them as well. You can do some techniques. I have them on my YouTube channels, but one of them is to ask yourself, why do I have this particular fear, or identify something that's holding us back. Then we ask, why do I have this particular emotion that's triggered every time something happens? And so just say, I need to either dream about it, or what I can do is you can look in the mirror with dim lighting and just stare at your eyes. And when you're staring at your eyes, you're going to notice that all of a sudden the mirror is going to go black. And then when it comes back, you're looking at your eyes, but you have a different face. And that's a past life. And after a while, it starts to move very, very quickly, so you have to take notes and make sure that you remember what it looked like. Sometimes you're a female, sometimes you're a male, sometimes you're a child, an old person, but you have to look at it. Now, don't do this over like maybe 10 minutes, because I did it so much that I got scared to look in mirrors. I'd walk by a mirror and I refused to look into it because I didn't know it was going to stare back. But you can access past lives that way.
Right.
And you'll notice that you'll feel like there's a spirit guide with you because you are being protected, so nothing can harm you. But then when you start looking at faces that don't look like they're from this planet, you realize that you have incarnated from other galaxies.
Right.
And that's a trip.
Well, back in the day, when I was, a young woman, studying everything Edgar Cayce put out, Edgar Cayce Foundation actually sold you a kit on how to work through your past lives, how to find out your past lives. It was like I remember it was a really big loose leaf with all kinds of exercises in it. And that's really where I, first started, and it was pretty fascinating. So, there are some tools out there. However, I don't recommend that the regular person spend a lot of time on past lives, because most people can't deal with this one. What do you do if you find out you were, an axe murderer in a past life? It's going to be pretty hard to carry around.
Well, I do a process, and again, it's in my video YouTube channel, where you can actually go and see your past lives without having any emotional connection to it, but just observing it. When you observe it, you're not emotionally connected at all, so it doesn't bother you and it doesn't hurt you in this lifetime. You get to just see it like a movie, like watching a movie and it happening to somebody else, but you know that it's you, because you don't want to come back traumatized. That would be irresponsible. And even past life regression, too, I always have people look at what's going on in their lives as the observer, and it's a lot easier that way. Mm-hmm. I have another process that is more loving, and this one involves, in your mind, see yourself going into a room that's got 3 doors. You walk through the first door, there's a door on the right, and there's a door in front of you. When you walk through the first door, you notice that there's a circle in the middle, and you step in to that part of the circle, but not inside of it, just on the line. The one on the right side, who's going to come through that was going to be a master, a family member that you really love. That's kind of like the mediator. And then the one in front of you is going to be that past life that either did something terrible or needed to, maybe had tremendous insecurities, and whatever it was, that person will come through. Then there's three of you, and you're all going to connect your hearts so that you're receiving love from the person on the right, the avatar, the ascended master, the anyone that you love, family member, and they're going to send their love to your heart, and you're going to send love to your past life heart, and you're going to listen to what they have to say. But the way you heal this whole process is you tell the past life, look, I'm you in the future, and I came here to let you know that we've made it. You've learned a lot, you've grown a lot, and I don't want you to be afraid any longer or feel a certain way. I want you to live in my heart so you can see how amazing we are now. And when you do that and you merge together with that past life, the one on the right side smiles at all of you, and then they're the first ones to walk out, and then that past life comes into your heart, and you reassure it every day that it's fine. And you're actually reassuring yourself, but you're reassuring yourself from a past incarnation. So that one is a beautiful, beautiful process.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing, that does sound great. I like that one. I'll try that one myself.
Yep.
Yep. When I talk to people about past lives, and some people are truly obsessed with it, I always tell them, wouldn't you rather do a future life progression instead of a past life regression? Wouldn't you like to see who you're going to be next? Because I find that much more life-affirming than going backwards.
Yeah, I think I would probably use both of them because, since we counsel all the time, there's a lot of people that have the same issue that come up over and over and over again. They can't get past it. So they have to find out where the genesis was from that particular behavior. Just like a dream reveals where something started in this lifetime, how it's manifesting now, and what the solution is, which is why people they have a hard time interpreting their dreams. But the dream actually tells you the answer, but it tells you where it started. So if you go back to the past and the genesis in another incarnation, because they're all tied in,
Right.
Why not? And then I call it future pacing, what you're talking about now, going ahead of time and looking at what's there for you. But the way I do it, I have a creative process. I'd like to hear yours as well. My process is that I have them look at an album, and the album in front of them is of the next 5 years. And they're going to be looking at pictures like you would a photo album, and it's going to be of themselves in different scenarios and what they're doing. Now, if they like what they see in the next 5 years, continue doing what you're doing. If not, you can make adjustments now in order to create the success that you really want. So future pacing and looking at a photo album of your future is a good way to do it. So how do you do it?
Well, most of the time I could do it, if they're, here in front of me. I'll walk them through it. I mean, I'll put them in a very light meditative state and then just walk them through it and sit with them through it. Just so, especially doing past life stuff. Because if they start freaking out, they need somebody to save them. And it's interesting because many years ago, one of my good friends was doing a class on future life progression. And there were probably 20 of us in the class. And he had us laid down on mats in a room. And he put us pretty much in a very quiet meditative state and pretty much walked us through it. And then he just let us be quiet and go where we had to go. And then after a while, he called everybody back. Everybody stretched out and came to. And then he asked people to share what they got. Some people didn't get anything. Some people, got something. And I was the only one in the room laughing. So he goes, "Why are you laughing, Meria?" And I said to him, "Well, I finally met the man of my dreams, and he's me." And I just started laughing at the irony of it.
Oh, my gosh. Well, you do run female and male energy. That's what makes us autonomous and individual. It's hard for men to handle that, though.
Right, but I mean, I saw a future that one of my friends who's one of the founders of the Futures Institute here at Rio Salado College, when I told him what I had seen in the future, he was blown away. He says, "How would you know about any of that? But I can tell you that they're already working on things like that." Mm-hmm. One thing I was aware of, which I never forgot, was it looked as though I was in Austria, but I knew it wasn't on this planet.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. Well, every single day when I do my meditation in the morning, I always ask my extraterrestrial friends, because I have them by name. They're from Andromeda, and Chiron is one of them. Look him up. Google Sheran, Chiron. He's from Andromeda. Blonde hair, blue eyes, stands very tall. There's another one, I don't know, his name is, oh my gosh, it'll come back to me. He looks Asian, but both of them are from the same place. And that particular one, the Asian one, does a lot more like working on the body, healing whatever needs to be healed. And he actually puts you on his table and works on certain things. And that's a really cool experience as well. But I like, connecting with extraterrestrials because they can really they can reset anything. They can heal bones that are broken and stuff. But I think, I'd like to know how to do that stuff. But when I asked them, they said, no, your brain isn't up to that place yet. You have to raise your frequency in order to receive new ideas. Mm-hmm. But they're behind Nikola Tesla, Leonardo da Vinci, Einstein. They were giving them all that information of what to invent. And I thought, this morning I even said that. I said, give me some information to teach people some new things about how to heal themselves, because we've always heard the expression, physician, heal thyself. Mm-hmm. And we can, but we just don't know how. Right. And they know how.
Exactly. Well, we are very limited in the little spacesuits that we inhabit here. Monica, we need to take a short break, so stay with us. Monica and I will be right back. Hi, this is Maria Heller. If you're enjoying this show, please consider listening to the rest of it, along with hundreds of other hours of education, by a small subscription on my site. Get over to meria.net, meria.net. You are the only thing that supports this show. There's no corporate control, and there's plenty of education on site. So please consider either a subscription or a donation to keep the work going. There are too many alternative voices out there that are being silenced because of lack of support. So if you don't want MSM to be the only mind-controlling news out there, please consider supporting the people that support you and help us all save something for the future for our children. Thank you so much.